And thank you very much for joining me here on PM Express once again. Yesterday, you may have watched the Majority Leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. Tonight, we have the Minority Chief Whip joining us for PM Express tonight. He is Honorable Muntaka Mubarak. And of course, he's been on the floor today on a very controversial subject. The Speaker of Parliament had taken an unprecedented step to refer the absence, as he says, without his permission, of some members of Parliament to the Privileges Committee that could lead to them being, their seats being vacated. That is a very serious referral indeed. As you know, in the last 1 week, a lot has been said and has happened on the floor when it comes to E-levy. The Majority Leader was very clear to us when he spoke to us that, of course, they outmaneuvered the minority. They had counterintelligence, and they were clear that the minority side had 136 and not 137 members of Parliament, because he believes James Achikwe's Nasin North seat is already vacated. Very controversial matters indeed. I'm going to get some reactions from the Minority Chief Whip on these key issues, and so I'm looking forward to this, and he's with me right now on PM Express. Thank you very much, Mr. Mubarak, for your time again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
I want to start with something that happened today. The Speaker did an unprecedented thing by referring 3 members of Parliament to the Privileges Committee. The ultimate act there could be that they vacate their seat under the constitutional provision. What's your take on it? I saw you on the floor today.
Well, I mean,
not happy with it.
Yeah, let me admit that I wasn't enthused at all about the Speaker's position. I agree. I mean, he needed to provide guidance. He needed to make the statement. A lot of the content of the statement were very relevant. We needed to take the issue of affluentism by members of Parliament more seriously. But unfortunately, I disagree with him with his last bit, like just as I stated on the floor of Parliament. You see, I keep telling a lot of people, I'm not a lawyer, but I study and read the Constitution a lot, and I study a lot of parliaments, especially the very progressive one like the House of Commons and the Congress, and the way the rules are played. It is not for nothing, Evans, that when you go to our standing, the 1992 Constitution, it talks about 110, Article 110, and with your permission, I'll just read it. I chose that it's better to do the quoting verbatim, so that people don't just think that you are paraphrasing. When you go to 110, clearly, this is what the Constitution says: subject to the provisions of this Constitution, Parliament may, by standing orders, regulate its own proceedings. Clearly, just like you go to the court of the proceedings in court, the Constitution is there, but the Constitution cannot give every fine details about how things get done, whether in the court or in Parliament. So you come to these standing orders 76, and with your permission again, I'll just read. This is what the standing orders in 76 says. Every application to Parliament, it didn't make any exception. This is the standing orders. Every application to Parliament. And unfortunately, I disagree again with Speaker when he was saying that he's not talking about Parliament, he's talking about the Speaker. Where he was seated is Parliament. If he's talking about his person as Speaker, that would be in his office. But matters that come to the House is what is referred to. Every application to Parliament. That is the floor. So anything that has to be done on the floor, our standing order says application to Parliament shall be, and this is in reference to a paper or a petition. If you go up 74, it has made room for ministers, it has made room for chairpersons, committee rankings, but this 74 is in respect of petitions. It says that every application, and for this, for betterment, for just a proper understanding of the public, I will read it to say every petition to Parliament, because it's every application, because you see, the side notes talks about petitions. You see, so it talks about petition. Every application to Parliament shall be in the form of a petition, and every petition must be presented. This is the word must be presented by a member who shall be responsible for the observance of the rules. So you see, if you are not a member, you will not be conversant with this and others to apply the rules. So, unfortunately, the Speaker is not a member of Parliament. I mean, there's no argument.
He himself has ruled on this matter that he's not.
He's not a member of Parliament. So, yes, people can write petition to him. That is why almost all petitions that have been written to speakers, many of them don't get to be on the floor. Sometimes the Speaker is magnanimous to tell them that, okay, you've given me, but can you get the member of Parliament in your constituency to lead it? So I'll give you a typical example. When the Unibank, the banking collapse, wanted a petition to Parliament, they used Mama Yaga to use a member to bring the matter before. So if Speaker has received petitions talking about Kennedy Japan, Honorable Henry Kwete, and Adwoa Safo, the Speaker himself, Somoto, I disagree, cannot bring the matter on the floor.
You should have directed a petitioner to contact his member of Parliament.
Or a member of Parliament who feel very convinced about these infractions will raise it. I know you say, oh, but you know, because you are colleagues, sometimes it may be difficult for you to raise. And I cite myself as a typical example. On 2 straight occasions, I have raised matter of privileges against Kennedy Japan because I felt convinced that this is the issue. Now, to come back a little back, you see, this matter of Adwoa Safo, I think that there's a lot of unfair treatment to the lady.
Why do you say that?
I'm reliably informed that she wrote leave of absence and her leadership refused to recommend it to Speaker.
Okay, Chairman Sabonsu told me that he applied for an additional 20 days that the Speaker rejected.
Listen, she wrote a leave of absence and then she traveled, citing her children and challenges. And the leadership, because they needed her at all costs, refused to recommend. So she noticed along the line that she's constantly being marked absent. So now she wrote a letter with another leave of absence directed to Mr. Speaker to remind them, Mr. Speaker, I'm supposed to seek permission from you, but the rules of this house is such that, like he himself stated today, I have to pass it through my leadership. I have noticed that my leadership have consistently refused to recommend my leave of absence. So I'm writing directly to you.
So she bypassed her leadership?
Yeah, because she has done one with the leadership and the leadership have refused to recommend. Now she writes this and stating this in the letter to Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having gotten this, I cannot judge the thinking of Mr. Speaker. Minuted it back to her leadership. The same leaders that have refused to recommend her leave of absence, Speaker referred this matter to her leadership. And what the majority leader simply said was that, I'm not aware. And based on that, Speaker refuses to grant her leave of absence. With the greatest of respect to the office of Mr. Speaker, I think this is very unfair.
Unfairness on the part of the Speaker or on the part of her leadership?
Both. The reason I'm saying unfair to both is that, you see, if I make a claim and you don't use your good office to investigate that, but you refer my application back to the same group of people that have refused to grant my leave of absence. If I were Mr. Speaker, to be fair, I would have then minuted that majority leader, majority whip, can you recommend, based on this complaint, to me for the leave of absence to be granted? Because remember, she has filled another leave of absence.
Complaining about the conduct.
About what her leadership did. So to treat her fairly, you, Mr. Speaker, having gotten this background, you will have recommended to the leadership to recommend for her leave of absence in order not to keep them on the blind side of what's happening. Now,
but this document, have you seen it yourself?
Yes.
Because Che, that's not Che's point.
I've seen it myself.
Che disagrees that that's what happened. He said the Speaker by himself rejected that application for extension of absence.
Tell him that if he challenged that, that minute could be brought out. Speaker wrote to him and he claimed that he wasn't aware.
So it was
he wasn't aware that she had made an early application. And you know, these applications are done through the whips. So you come to our side, I grant all the leave of absence. Okay. And the reason why we allow the whips, all of our parliaments to do, because it's the whips that control numbers. So we have something we call pairing. So if, for example, Evans wants to travel for a funeral in Kumasi, I will have to find out for opposite. Is any other person traveling? If I need numbers, I will check. Is any other person traveling on the other side? If I get somebody traveling, then I say, oh, okay, I'm sure that, hypothetically, say, another person is also traveling. So if Evans is not there, at least it cancels out. So based on that, I grant. If it is, say, something that is very complicated, you may even require some assistance. I should be able to initiate. For example, I mean, the defense minister will tell you, there are instances where I call and I say, look, a member is sick and we need to get the person flown from Tamale to Accra or something. Or there's this funeral that is very urgent, but because of the distance and time, can you assist us with a chopper to just lift them and go? So you grant to do. So that's why the whips are those who grant the leave of absence. So with the greatest right, if I'm to travel, I will do that to my deputy for him to grant. If the leader is traveling, I have to grant the leave of absence. So it's the whips that handle this. So my belief is that if it's not a grant scheme, it is for the leader to get his whip to now recommend at least the one that she has sent to speaker so that they will be recorded. But deliberately, they kept marking her absent. Now the reason she gave, is it tenable? I mean, everybody in the way he looks at it. I sitting here, I put my family above everything. If I have a sick child, in seeking health care for my child, I'll put that as a priority to any other thing. If my mother is sick, I'll put that as a priority to any other thing. So you may disagree because maybe in your case, you have your grandmother staying with you who can take care of the kids. Therefore, if your children are sick, there's somebody to take care of them. In my case, it's me and my wife, and I will have to prioritize that because their health care will be very, very important. So she's talking about her children. And if she's not careful, social welfare in America will seize these children.
Did she say that in the application?
Yes. We cannot pretend to say that that's not a serious thing. We can't.
But
is she overstretching this? I know because of the numbers and the difficulty that we find ourselves. This has never been an issue. Evans, I'm one who had constantly raised on our floor of parliament about absenteeism. Remember before the 2020 election when Anaton was about to increase constituency. I just said, it's not important. Don't add constituency because, look, the 275 that you have, I can't even put my hand on good 100 that are doing the work. I've said all this thing before. So I'm not just defending unnecessarily. You and I know that for the first time, Kennedy Japan, he was also sick.
Yeah.
You have to go through a lot of procedure. You know, a lot of members in this house sometimes take things for granted because of our past. In the past, because of the numbers were good on the majority side. I mean, when I was the majority, we were 150, 154, and they were 120.
I mean, this has never happened before with the numbers disclosed.
The last time, they were 169, we were 106. So, people don't take these things. Now, the number is sad that every whip is looking, every number matters. And you are doing everything to make sure that those things are properly placed. Who doesn't know that Henry Kweti was not also well? So the and oversight not put in the application.
The chieftain's minister.
It's not well currently. I haven't seen anybody put leave of absence for him for a long period. I don't know now, for the past 1 week. But when we were all monitoring the numbers for E-levy, I was constantly checking and was constantly answering without permission.
But isn't that so why the speaker has referred it to the privileges to make that determination?
That is why it has to be properly done.
But he's done it properly.
No, a member will have to do that. Because Evans, this is the challenge. Today, it may be barbing. Could you imagine that the speaker we have is a speaker on the majority side with these numbers? And we allow what Speaker Babin is attempting to do to stay. Believe me, whichever group are in the minority will really, really have run for their money. Because he will just get up and get civil society right petition, then he will refer you to privileges. This one writes to speaker, then he refers you to privilege. This one writes to speaker. That is why I want to believe that the framers of our family audience are mindful of this. That's why they say that it should be a member. So if we all just think that, that's why I said on the floor, that, oh, this one is because today it is Kennedy Japan, today is Henry Kwete, it's Adwoa Safo, let's do it to them. Tomorrow, if you get a dictatorial speaker, he would deal with members. I mean, even if you challenge him, right, and then there's some little breach, he will just send you to privileges.
But it's surprising, because if the three, this is about vacating their seats.
Yeah.
They lose 3 seats. You should be happy.
I'm talking about fairness and equity. Because you see, the danger.
Since when has that become part of the politics of Ghana?
The danger is that because of the way our number is, if you allow an unjust or an unfair, in my view, process to be meted out to some people, and you sit and laugh, it could be a preparatory ground.
Yeah, but right now it serves your interest. It serves the NDC's political interest.
Yeah, the challenge. What
you don't disagree with that, do you?
What you forget is that, what if it is just to do 3 and later do 10 on this side, and then you be caught with double standard. Oh, because it was on the other side, you kept quiet and you were celebrating it. Today it's being done to you. You are screaming to the rooftop. That is part of the reason why. And you see, Evans, I'm sorry, sometimes Professor Kwe, almost all speakers have called me sometime to the office. No, but we thought that this one, yeah, you are very emotional. Evans, I came to this house when I was just about 35. I spent all my youthful age in this house. So anytime I see an attempt to take this house down, naturally it resonates with me. Because, I mean, I could have been in a busy, I mean, I was happily in a LBC cocoa buying firm and I was doing very well. Probably, if I were still there, maybe I could be far richer than today, where I am today. If I've invested my youth, all my youthful age in this house, at least I should leave it better than I came to meet it. So anytime I see an attempt to play with our rules for political expediency, I get worried. Regardless of who is doing it.
But you're not suggesting the speaker is doing it.
I'm not. I'm only worried that if that vehicle is allowed to stay, tomorrow it may not be Babin. It may not be Speaker Babin. It may be another speaker who will conveniently use it. And when he tries to use it, this will be the basis. And that is why, apparently, maybe with all the difficulty, I mean, I believe that all those who are watching us will have the least doubt about what I'm going to say. If you see this chamber, if there's one biggest confidant of Mr. Speaker, it is me.
So what happened today on the floor?
275. I believe
was very heated. The action was heated. They said you should sit. You don't even want to sit.
Yeah, well, maybe because I thought that he was trying to gag me. And I thought that we listened to him in silence. He has the power to overrule me, to do everything, but he must first hear me. That's a rule we have.
I thought I
didn't, because I was still speaking. So I wanted him to allow me to finish speaking. That decision for him to do whatever with what I say is his. But for me to be heard is mine. And I thought that should be. I'm one of his. I won't say one. I'm his biggest confidant.
Still?
But yes.
In the last 1 week still?
Yes.
Okay.
There are so many things. You see, if we all have confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, you have chief of staff and the president disagree. You have a minister and the special assistant disagree. You have.
But publicly, no. Rarely see it play out publicly.
Yes.
Today was very public.
Sometimes.
You didn't know about the referral until today?
Unfortunately, this has come up some weeks back, where he was concerned about the absenteeism. And unfortunately, I kept reminding him that, Mr. Speaker, we need to get our colleagues to get somebody from their side to raise it. if we feel strongly, and even a member on our side is willing to do it, let's encourage that person to do it. Mr. Speaker, I disagree with you to do it yourself. This discussion has come up again. But to do it today.
Did you know?
I didn't know until we went for pre-sitting. You know, we normally have pre-sitting.
That's today?
Today. So at the pre-sitting, Speaker brought it up. And I respectfully said, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry this would divide us. Because there's a huge disagreement about how it can be done. I'm sorry it would divide us. And I thought that we want to rise today. We have a lot of business on the other paper. If we could concentrate on the business, I believe it could do us good. But the majority there was also in support. And apparently, when yesterday on your news portal, I saw the majority saying that this week, this was going to happen.
It's going to be referred.
And this morning, and came up. Maybe, let me say, to be fair, I became biased before I came to the chamber. Because I thought that, this is what the majority said only yesterday on the news portal, that this week this will happen. And lo and behold, we come to pre-sitting, and this is going to happen this morning.
To put it in context, he actually said this to me last Thursday, because that interview was recorded. I
saw your this in only yesterday. Yeah. So for me, an attempt to get them, he should be more interested in the business that is loaded. To agree sounded for me as though something wasn't right. Something
like what?
Probably maybe there was some discussion where we were not
But aware. He clearly knew when the timing of it. In fact, he was suspecting last Friday.
Yeah, so I keep saying that if he...
So you were not in the loop on when?
No, as to when...
You were not in the loop?
I'm not in the loop. So for it to come today, only yesterday when this is on the Joy News, honestly...
But this is your confidant. This is somebody described as...
And if I tell you that,
so
if I tell you that even last night, funny enough, my wife will laugh at this. Last night, even 10 p.m., myself and Speaker was on phone. We were on phone.
And he didn't.
Maybe he might have forgotten. Okay. But I got to only know at pre-sitting, and unfortunately, I entered the chamber. I was looking for the lawyers to prem them, because when he first said it, I tried to tease out Dominic Ayini. Can you look through Ayarga? Can you look through the constitution? This is my thinking, and coincidentally, many of them agrees with me, with the position of the standing orders and what have you. So I relayed back to him. So if this was going to be done, I was looking for, my preference would have been to get a very good lawyer of good standing on my side to do it. But when I entered, many of them were not there. Obviously,
I had to take it on yourself. Yes. So it has been referred now.
Well,
you are a member of the... Okay, you challenged this.
Yes, we've said, and we are going to do it now.
In fact, you and Minority Leader both said same.
Yeah, we are challenging.
So you're coming by motion?
Yeah, substantive motion.
Okay, but you say you're rising. So
we are rising. So when the motion it got to this office before we rise, that motion will have to be considered. So probably the privileges will not have to happen until that motion is...
Okay, so would that come back for a debate on the floor?
Obviously, that substantive motion will have to be debated and then agreed upon. If we have
to be voted, then
because it's a substantive motion, and a decision the House have to decide whether they agree with us that we are disagreeing with Mr. Speaker and the method he used, or whether they agree with Mr. Speaker with the method that he used. So they will be voting.
You know what I find curious is that this is the MPP guys who seem to, because Chairman Sabuza actually was arguing that even the report of the privilege should not come at all once they decide.
And there again,
and rather it's the NDC like yourself who is talking about unfairness.
Yes.
But the majority leader is saying that in fact the decision of the privilege committee on this matter should be final. You shouldn't have an opportunity to even debate it. This is very, very unprecedented territory here, where the NPP members appear to be supporting the Speaker in forwarding the thing to the privileges, and the NDC rather is defending the MPP colleagues who have been referred. This is very strange.
It is because I keep telling you that for the next 3 years, remember we are in the minority and we could be at the receiving end. So we are very careful that if you allow it to go and then finally it's been done to you, you have no voice. But let me refer you to our standing orders again. Our order 161, and read. Listen, it talks about committee. The recommendations of committee shall, it didn't say may, shall be presented to the House in the form of a report. And
But
you see,
this is standing order.
that's our standing order.
It's subservient to the Constitution.
And
The Chairman supposed to claim quoting the Constitution that says you shall vacate.
No. But when those processes say that you be referred to a committee, remember the Constitution doesn't go into details how committee works, how they report and those things. That's why it has mandated us in Article 110 to do that. So when you go to 97 1C that they are talking about, it's talking about you go to Privileges Committee for them to make a determination.
Whether your reasons are reasonable.
But this, as long as everything a committee in this House does is supposed to be subjected to the floor.
So you disagree with
where the standing orders that doesn't want that to happen, it states it clearly. And that's in the case of Finance Committee with contingency fund. If we're on recess, and the reason is because it is contingency fund, it says that because it is contingency, if you're on recess and Parliament could not be assembled, Finance Committee could give the mandate, then when Parliament resumes, then they bring the report for. So where the standing orders anticipate that there could be a situation where the committee should take the decision, it stays so. So once it's not stated there for privileges, it will also come just like any other referral to a committee. Anything that is referred to a committee will have to come to the plenary. Do you know why they are afraid of the plenary?
Why?
Because there's going to be vote. And when there's going to be vote, you can't imagine Kennedy Japan voting with them against himself. I get it. Because if you bring the report, and we're going to take them one after the other, our constitution and standing orders are very clear. To put people in office, to remove people in office, it has to be by secret ballot. I get it. So now we are going to vote to remove Kennedy Japan. Until he's removed, he's also a member of Parliament. Remember that. Until he's removed, he's a member of Parliament.
True.
So we are going to vote.
So he can vote.
So he can vote.
But you say there's no way
he vote against himself.
To remove himself, to sack himself.
So the moment he will vote with us, that will be majority. That is what they are anticipating. You have to always watch this game. We are politicians. Everybody that you see talking today this morning is looking at the near future. What could be happening to himself or herself? Because if you are going to remove Adwoa Safo, you are going to remove Henry Kwete, you are going to remove Japan, Kennedy Japan.
Yeah.
And they are to vote.
but
and the danger, and you know the danger they are seeing. It is the reason why I want to believe none of them want to raise the issue of for it to be properly referred to privileges, and they wanted to use the speaker.
Oh, why?
Because if, let's hypothetically, I know the umpire raises that, and then it goes to privileges, and then it comes with a report, and then you don't succeed in removing Kennedy Japan.
You become his enemy.
The whip loses him automatically to us.
Okay, so he sort of plays the ball with you now.
No, because you wanted to remove me. Yeah. I've survived based on these guys not supporting you.
I'm not going to play ball again.
I won't be on your side again. The person is going to rebel. It is the reason why their side is not doing what they are supposed to do.
But the petition was filed by Ras Mubarak, and Ras Mubarak is an NDC person.
Mubarak is outside Parliament, and Ras Mubarak,
I thought that NDC
as a member of Parliament, if he really wanted this done, he knows what to do, because he won't get any NDC member to canvass this for him.
Why?
Why will we?
But it goes back to the point. You are going to gain 3 seats over them.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, they'll lose 3, which is your gain.
Wait, you think that, Adwoa Safo's constituency is going to be an easy way to take?
So here's the thing. So you're afraid of a by-election?
No, not just that. Even the finances. You know what happens in by-election?
Yes, it's
I have canvassed that, look, in my view.
But you came to Parliament through a by-election, so you understand this.
If for one reason or the other a member of Parliament seat is vacant, in my view, we should allow that party.
I've heard you come back to that.
Because of how the acrimony,
it's more acrimonious than the main election.
Yeah. And the expenditure and the waste and the abuse of the law and all that. Both sides.
So yes, you are afraid of a by-election.
Not afraid of a by-election aside, but whether under these circumstances it warrants that you take your colleagues out when you know. I mean, with the greatest respect, you know me and Kennedy Japan. I mean,
yeah, you have
our own differences.
Yeah.
I knew he said it publicly. He had to go through a very difficult procedure. It could be me tomorrow. Yes, he failed to complete the leave of absence form. But who will say among us that he did not believe that genuinely he was sick? Who among us will say that he didn't know that genuinely Henry Kweti was sick? And for me, yes, they skipped this. And since then, they've been alert in getting the leave of absence completed and showing up in Parliament once a while. I can think since these issues started coming.
But you know, Mr. Mubarak, that there's no way the Privilege Committee, where they have the majority by one, will recommend that the Greater Accra Regional Minister and Kennedy Japan be added to those who. The recommendation, I presume, will be Adwoa Safo. Yes. You know that possibly is the end game.
That possibility is there.
Yeah.
That possibility is there, but that will make very difficult to defend for the committee on the floor. That three people commit about the same crime.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, this one.
But the constitution is clear. The reasonableness of your reason for being absent.
And I say that.
They come to the determination that Adwoa Safo isn't reasonable, but those two are.
Well, so that's for them to determine. But
you're a member of the Privilege Committee?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Okay.
I'm not a member of the Privilege Committee.
But I've seen you as helping them before.
No, as the whip, virtually
you can do anything.
And as maybe an ordinary member, you can attend every committee, except that when they are going to
do you expect the Privilege Committee to sit now because the thing has been directed, or you intend to arrest by your challenge?
Yes, our expectation is that we are going to file the decision to challenge Speaker's ruling before we rise, and based on that, we believe that fairness, the Speaker will allow that objection to be taken first before probably the privileges will set. But regardless, whatever will happen, I can bet you will have a strategy to deal with this thing, because I believe that, yes, I'm vehemently against members being absent. I mean, because believe me, even I have businesses, but everybody in this house will admit I commit fully to this house. I come to the house, stay in the chamber until we close. I mean, every day Parliament is sitting unless I've sought permission. To the extent that even last week Friday, I spent a lot of time in the committee, and when I realized I couldn't go to the chamber, I still have to complete leave of absence because I didn't want to be marked absent. No. So I'm somebody who is strict about this, but I'm saying that let's be careful the way it is being done, because when we allow a bad precedent to set in, it will bite all of us.
And very final question on this. I mean, fundamentally, Alban Bagbin is a founding member of the NDC.
Yeah.
He's been in Parliament on the NDC ticket for so long. So for many watchers, we didn't anticipate that this will happen. Is he still in your corner?
Well, let me admit, speakers don't need to be in one corner or the other.
I agree, but
they do not lose their party that they belong to, and the affiliation, and sometimes they will sway towards their party lines, right? But obviously, you know that we have a very difficult situation that we find ourselves. I mean, now, unfortunately, with what happens today, it's like we are drawing to a point where close to both sides accusing him. I would say to a large extent, that's good for him to show that the man is trying to play neutral, and therefore, because he's playing neutral, periodically he has problem with whichever side. But for the grassroots of the NDC and other things, obviously they are not going to be happy knowing how speakers in the past have behaved. They virtually are in line with their parties. That's a very difficult thing for him, and I really don't envy him in the current position. But I believe that, I sincerely believe, and this I won't take away from Professor Michael Quay, that he always tries to get the two leaders or the leadership to agree on something. It is on few occasions that where they disagree that he will stand with his people. And sometimes you get the bashing. Has
Babin done that?
But unfortunately, he's struggling because he doesn't want to be seen to be for any side. And you know, for those of us who have kept long in this house, and like I just alluded to earlier, wanting to see Parliament strong, you'll be happy that you want someone who will stand in the middle and be firm. But for others who think that we have suffered this so much under Professor Quay, you feel that this is a time for us to have some relief. So if you begin to see this, then say that, hey, where are we? Yeah. We just came from Professor Quay always siding with his party.
There was a reason why you fought tooth and nail to have him elected.
Now you have your own, and it doesn't seem to be lining up with you. But I believe that we need to give him space and allow him to try to stay in the middle. But he should also pick the fight. I don't think that it is everything that is worth picking.
Talking about fight, it leads me to the E-levy conversation. I'll take a break. When I return, again, Alan Babin was in the chair when last week the E-levy was passed. And his position was the fact that they've left the chamber shouldn't stop the House from proceeding. Mama Yariga, who is one of the plaintiffs, has told me on PMS last week that he was surprised that the Speaker didn't raise or didn't satisfy himself that it was quorum to take the decision. When we return, we'll talk about that. Jamie Sabungso had said on PM Express already that he outmaneuvered his colleagues and that they had counterintelligence and they struck on the day when the iron was very hot, when they were less prepared for it. And that's why they managed to get the E-levy passed. I'll pick his thoughts on the E-levy and how it's panned out and what the end game is. Stay with me. And thank you for staying with me here on PM Express. My guest is still the Minority Chief Whip, Muntaka Mubarak. Mr. Mubarak, so let's talk about the E-levy. Last week, after a long battle to try and stop the E-levy, it still got passed. You admit you were outmaneuvered, outfought by the majority.
Well, it's sad to say, with the help of the court. You see, I know a lot of people were worried and concerned, so finally all this battle, yes, it's true. We've invested a lot of energy, we've a lot of time, a lot of things that happened. We've held them from November, December, January, February, March. For 5 months, we have outsmarted them until they had the court to help them. And I'm sorry to say they had the court to help them. Can you imagine in a week, you have a strikeout at the appeals court. You have on the same day, 29th, a High Court hearing the criminal case and the Supreme Court hearing the same case. And you know,
that is the justice system working.
Well, that's how you say it. And you have, in the criminal case, the MP needs to be there himself. And Evans, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. So yes, I would say that yes, they got it, but with the help of the court.
But you admit that the court was just simply doing its job.
Well, let me say, the coincidence was just too much. That within that same week, and on a particular day, you have the same person appearing, is supposed to appear in 2 courts at the same time.
As far as political strategy goes, you must applaud the majority. If you were in a position, you would have done so.
That they have to use the court.
Yeah, but the court is there for anybody who has a case to go.
So let me say that if there's a group that needs to be congratulated, it is us.
But you failed in the end.
No, because you see, we were 137, and they were 137 plus 1, so total 138. To have been able to hold them from November through to March, don't just discount that. And you see, the standard of the House, the standing orders of the House also plays to their advantage, because obviously you should remember when the standing order was made, it was the PNDC era, just moving to the NDC, so you have Justice DFR late putting a lot of energy into this, but it was done with a majoritarian background. So you have the House virtually doing only government business or largely doing government business. So it is the majority that calls for the what you call the business. Now you have us for almost 5 weeks, every Friday, challenging. When are you doing the E-levy? They are silent. Then they come all of a sudden.
Because we're
a day before, let me tell you, a day before, I heard the interview. Well, I have said it first, that it will be very unstrategic of any whip not to have an ear on the other side.
They said they have counterintelligence.
Oh no,
they have people on your platform.
No, it is simply a role you play in Parliament. In Parliament, you see, people have other acquaintances like family. You have Abu Jinapo and John Jinapo. They are from the same house. Yeah. I get it. They are brothers, blood brothers. You have me and Napo from the same Kumasi, grew up together, virtually like brothers. Church members, mosque members. We have a lot of acquaintances. So it is very difficult sometimes to keep information of one side from the other side for long. The interesting thing is that they wanted to do that and humiliate us. Because
we wanted to do what? Pass the bill?
And humiliate us.
Okay.
Because can you imagine if this bill had been passed and we were, say, 90? That would have been a terrible humiliation for us. Because everybody asked, why were your members? I mean, you went sleeping, that kind of thing. If I tell you that they sent a message for a caucus meeting for a Monday, and immediately I intercepted it.
So you knew about the caucus meeting?
That quickly told me that, no, this caucus meeting will not be for nothing. At that time, I have a member in Sierra Leone, Freetown. I have another member in Amsterdam. I have 2 members in Istanbul. That was the Monday. And they have to get back to Accra.
Monday to Tuesday? You flew them back?
Yes.
3 members?
4. One was in Freetown. The other was in Amsterdam. 2 were in Istanbul. We have to get everybody back before that Monday, before that Tuesday afternoon.
Because of your intelligence you got about
yes, because the moment they went into a meeting, and by the time they finished the meeting, I've gotten the details that, they were going in for the E-levy. So it helps us to avoid humiliation. And I have my head very high.
Did the 4 actually come?
All of them got here.
And they were in the chamber?
Yes. And we had 2 people in Jomuru. As at the morning. We woke up in the morning, dawn, and 2 of our members were in Jomuru.
How did they get back?
They got, we that's why I'm saying that we refuse to be humiliated. So we have to keep our head very high.
Did any of the members go to Tamale for the commissioning? Because some of them were invited.
No, I made sure that nobody left for the commissioning. Because the commissioning were all part of their strategy. Either than to take some of our members on guided. Because if you woke up weekend, you were in Tamale, and then Monday, you didn't do anything, and then Tuesday there's commissioning, and your people see you in town, the tendency for you to stay was very high. But when we got this intelligence, so we had to quickly get everybody to move out on that Monday evening to make sure that by dawn Tuesday, everybody was in Accra. So we came to the chamber, we were 136, and they were 136. And you know the rules in the Constitution. When there's a tie, it's a loss.
But they had Kumi now.
But
we had Kumi.
No, then so that was the calculation. Oh, they're going to lose. Don't worry. Once I get all my members, they are going to lose. Then that evening, you have the majority leader, the chief whip, come with the family of Kum to take them through where they will pass, how they use the lift, how they will bring them to speaker's lobby, and how they will get into the chamber and all that. So I got that intelligence. So I knew that, look, if they succeed in bringing Kum, then they are going to be 137, we'll be 136. So I called for an early caucus meeting, and we resolved that, look, even if we are 50, we have to stand to be counted. So that will be counted and lose honorably. After all, Ghanaians know that we have been vehemently against this thing, and they gave us 137. That's the mandate they gave us. They gave them 138. If they had all their 138 in November, yes, we'd just be voting and be losing.
So why did you leave the chamber then if that was your initial position?
So after the caucus meeting, we came in. Then when Kum came, I said, okay, the end game is here. All of us should be proud that with the help of the court.
So the ambulance was for him?
Well,
now
Now you're hearing the speaker says he was in ambulance.
She says the ambulance wasn't for him.
That he came in his own car. The bottom line is that they have made arrangement to bring him.
Okay. And he was in the house.
They made all the necessary arrangement. And
you said you knew this the night before?
I knew that the night before. They were planning because the family were concerned about his health. And they were really weeping. That look.
How did you know all that?
Yes, that's the work of the
But how did you know they were weeping? I mean,
no, I'm telling you, if you can get any family member, they will tell you.
When you spoke to the family members?
No, I'm saying that if you get anywhere, and they will truly tell the truth. There were people that look, by the time you go through this process, by the time this guy could die. And they were bringing him to assure them what they were going to do to ensure his safety and make sure that he gets back home at least not worse than they brought him.
I need to ask you, how did you know that detail of the family's
No, you see, the moment you
concern,
because you get there.
Were you assuming? This is an assumption you're making.
No, it's not an assumption. The moment you get the signal as a whip, if I tell you that Monday I didn't sleep, because I had to keep crossing the T and dotting the I and be doubly sure, because there have been on 3 or 4 occasions that they tried, thinking that they would catch us pants down. And then they came to the chamber and we were 137. And they were asking us, so how did the guys got to know that this will happen? So when he's talking about smarting, they've tried it. This was about the 5th time. And I can bet you, had it not been the court processes, there was no way they would have smarted, because they knew somebody was in Sierra Leone. They knew someone was in Amsterdam. In fact, the one who was in Amsterdam, his marching pair that I knew they were tricked him. On Monday morning,
his colleague MPP MP.
Yes, tricked him. They were to connect from Amsterdam. Then I called him. So we placed a call to him. So are you with Honorable so and so? So he just called me that he cannot come today. I should take the lead. He will join me tomorrow. I said, he's coming back home. So come back home. So that colleague of his, when he saw him, he was shocked that he knew that the guy was connecting further to France, or is it Germany somewhere, and he saw him in Accra. So how did you come by? I said, how did you also come by? You told me I had to take the lead. You were coming. So I get think all this. So in Istanbul too, the same thing. We had pairing. They woke up and they didn't see their pair, and they were wondering. Then they saw my call. Hey, whatever you are doing, get the next available flight. You have to be in Accra by tomorrow morning. And they go here. So they've tried it more than 4 occasions. You remember there was one evening. They came and said, okay, let's go ahead and have it. Then with a touch of a button, they saw that all our seats were full. They said, they are no longer going to do it. Because they knew they were going to cut us pants down. I did not be in the court processes. There was no way they would have cut us pants. So what happened?
So why did you leave the chamber?
We came and then now we're 136 and they are 137. So I announced that, okay, this is the end game. We should congratulate ourselves. We fought well. We've done our best. We'll just stand together. We'll be counted 136. Ghanaians know that Honorable Kwesi is still struggling out there to file the stay of execution, all those processes. So he couldn't join us in the chamber, even though he was within the precinct of the House. So we should be proud that we have done our best and we stood together. Then some of our colleagues said, Chief Whip, do you remember the Supreme Court ruling? So what's about the Supreme Court ruling? They said decision quorum. The 138 decision quorum. Since these guys, 1, they tried to pull a fast surprise on us. 2, they also, the court virtually is preventing one of our court to come in. Why do we give them, legitimates? Why do we legitimize the process? Because when we stay and we vote and we lose, perfect legitimacy, no any noise, nothing. We've been beaten to it.
So leave the Supreme Court.
So let's leave them so that we can have the E-levy fights. We keep the E-levy fight alive. And believe me, all of a sudden, my caucus was rupturing. For and against.
So there were some who said she'll stay.
No. Let's keep to our original decision. But you see, and I say this to most of our colleagues out there, whether in the party top hierarchy, the grassroots, where you are naming individuals within the caucus who brought the suggestion. Please, we don't do that in a group. I say, if you want to blame us the leaders. Because every single one of us gave a suggestion. That suggestion, it was for us to take. Everybody, there were 1,001 suggestions. We took this and implement it. If there's anything wrong with it, blame the leader. Don't blame those who give the suggestion. Because you see, we lead a group that, with the greatest respect, when we tell humility, some are more intelligent than us, some have stayed in this house longer than us, some have seen real life experiences more than those of us in leadership. So constantly we use their advice. So because this one, immediately after we went into a caucus, we have to do the briefing. So people got to know that, oh, it was Evans Mensah who said this, and then supported by Mama V and this. So because of that, it was guys who made our leaders to change this. That's not fair. They gave a suggestion. We were convinced about the suggestion. We took that decision. If that decision is wrong, blame us as leaders, but don't blame those who gave the suggestion.
You believe the decision was right?
I believe the decision was wrong. Because, see, anyway, anyhow, on 29th, the matter was ending.
Now you see
it was ending for them to have legitimacy, because we wanted to say, we'll vote, we'll lose, right? But now, even though we disagree with the Supreme Court ruling, we're not playing back to them. You said that there should be
stand by your decision.
Decision quorum. Okay, so now we'll present you with one. When they walked out and we were 137, you said that we didn't have decision quorum. Now we walked out, they were 137. They also don't have decision quorum. Let's hear what you are saying. So at least we keep a window of life in our resistance to the E-levy, as compared to if we had stayed in and voted and lost with our 136, we'll have given them legitimacy, and then the matter
should the Speaker have raised the quorum issue?
Let me admit this. When Speaker tried to raise quorum with us, I disagree with him. Okay. Because I thought that the quorum should be raised by somebody on the floor. And then he chose to say that he wanted to convince himself that we're there. The only difficulty that our members are having is that if when they walked out and left us, you wanted to convince yourself we had the number, the quorum, why are you not also going to cross-check to convince yourself?
Double standards?
Well, I will not accuse the Speaker of double standards. I would just say that we thought that he should have used the same principle that he used. But I remember when people sit up there, for example, when you saw the Speaker said, I wasn't there, but I heard the paraphrase as we surprised him with our walkout.
Yes. And he surprised with the walkout, but also surprised that the matter came that morning. The E-levy was both.
So maybe out of those shock of surprise, he forgot to ask them to do what we did. But I don't know whether when they walked out, he was aware and he wasn't surprised. I get it. Yeah. So these are legitimate questions that our colleagues are asking. That why the Speaker didn't also count them. But for me, I always give him the benefit of the doubt, hoping that he acted fairly.
Two quick things, then we wrap up. Jaji Kwesi, Majority Leader is emphatic that his seat is vacated. Oh, you've said that that's not the case. But is he in the House today, for example?
Yes. Today, let me admit, because this happened very early and I had to step out.
Okay. You're not sure?
I'm not, but I'm sure.
But your position is that yesterday, he can come and do
yesterday, when we finished speaking,
yes.
I think he was monitoring. Okay. So he walked to me in the chamber.
They say he's here.
And I said, oh, I've told her you are here. So it's good that you are here. Maybe the cameras will capture you talking to me. So you are here. Please, just keep your
So
calm.
your position you can do
You see, we are president. Graciously, I've been in this house long enough to have some experience, some examples to give you. When Adwoa Safo was unfortunately in prison in, I think, 2006, 2007, and he was appealing, the seat kept counted. It was not declared vacant. He went through the appeal, then he was pardoned to the end. When Martin dealt with the cocaine thing, and he was abroad, and he was going through the trial, the seat was not over until when he wrote and resigned. And
then it was challenged at the High Court.
It was challenged
at the appeals court.
At the appeals court. But all those things didn't lead to the declaring of his seat vacant. Remember? But all those things did it because he himself wrote to resign. Yeah. He wrote to resign. Yes. I think while those processes were going on, he wrote and resigned.
True.
Now, when Adwoa Safo, the late Boko,
was being
tried and he was in prison, the seat was not declared vacant. Whilst he was going through the process of appeal and everything, when he was also pardoned. So we have enough precedents in the House. So when I see majority they are doing this, I see desperation. And you see, it makes it very difficult not to believe the perception out there that the government in power is trying to manipulate the judiciary to get a certain outcome. Because you could see the jittery.
They simply believe in their case.
No,
that
it's
their
not.
case against Judge Ikuyi is solid.
It's because you don't have so much time. Look at the constitution. Look at everything. I'm not a lawyer. I keep saying it's like you will not be a member of parliament. So when did he become a member of parliament? On the 7th of January. They are talking about when he filed for the contest. As at the day of election, he has already gotten his certificate. And you know what? He filed for immunization in November 2019. Then COVID set in. That slowed down everything in the world. So that delayed the thing because within 6 months he was supposed to have gotten it. So the day he filed, then there was a challenge by his opponent to the electoral commission. So they summoned them and he brought all his documents. And they look at it and say, oh, okay, if we have this, we can go and file. So when they are taking this article about deception of public officers, the electoral officers knew. And a week after filing, then he got the certificate. He went to show them and they said that make a photocopy and attach it to your application. So as at the day of election, he has completed the process. As at the day he was being sworn in as a member of parliament, he has completed the process. It is only as at the day of the filing. And we thought that this is very unfair. Because the law and the constitution keeps you won't be a member of parliament. When do you become a member of parliament? The day you get sworn in. Well, but we leave these are matters for the courts to determine.
And very finally, in that case that you're taking the Supreme Court to challenge the E-levy's passage, it comes down to the numbers on the floor.
Yeah.
How do you prove that? Yesterday, the Speaker was clear that the constitutional provision you rely on says must be present.
In the
half
House.
of exactly present. How do you determine? Speaker says if you are in a precinct, you are present. That is according to the votes and proceedings of that day. Even there were 266
you are
present.
Speaking to the what do you call it? What do you say?
Converted.
I was speaking to a converted. That has been our argument. And the Supreme Court disagree with us. And because they disagree with us, that is the law now. So we are now testing the law. Because remember in all our argument on your own network, I said, look, presence in the house, you walking out doesn't mean that you are not there. So the next day we use the vote and proceedings. And the vote and proceedings said these were the people who were present. Now the Supreme Court disagreed with us and said that no, there should be courage.
So what evidence are you going to use before the Supreme Court?
That they were 137 sitting in the chamber.
But you have to prove that. How do you prove that? Video or how do you prove that?
No, all of us were not there.
Okay, so you're
the video was not there.
In fact, yesterday, Chairman Sabosi said that some of you kept coming in and
out.
No, he said some of you kept coming in and out.
You see, he started by saying that when the principle was going to be put, some of our members, their back was still showing. I said, okay, granted. That first one, you got it. But do you know after that one, how many votes? There were 16 other votes.
Yeah. No, he
other
told
decisions
me yesterday
were taken.
that during that time, some of you kept coming into the chamber.
Can you imagine this cock and bull explanation? So let's see how the Supreme Court, with their own ruling, let's see how they navigate this.
Okay.
Because our position had always been that, look, when people walk out, it doesn't mean that we cannot continue. But they came and said that no, courage for decision is different from other quorum. So now they are tying their own hands. They said, okay, now we left them and they were 137. Remember, because we walked out, even if I were the whip, I would not further risk. Because remember, the lift we have here is very small and moving, probably because he may even have to be structured into the chamber and order. I won't risk when I know the minority have walked away. The reason why I was going to bring him in, if I were the whip, is because the minority was there to prove my 137th person. So if they walk away, I don't need to take him through all these threats. So he never came into the chamber.
Okay.
So we're leaving there even 136, actually. Because if we were there, they would have brought him in. And if I were the whip, obviously I wouldn't risk bringing him because in the process, you are only gambling. Even if it was 99% chance that nothing will happen, there was still a 1% possibility that something could go wrong in the movement and something could happen. So I wouldn't do it. And I think the whip took the right decision. Well, after we walked out, not to try to wheel him into the chamber. So they were virtually 136 who were doing the work. And this is beyond reasonable doubt.
That is the Minority Chief Whip. Very interesting revelations indeed. We'll see how Parliament handles these issues and goes from here. The jury is still out there. Enjoy the rest of your evening.